Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of On the Boundary. You're back with me, Ulubabalo, and I am with my co-host, Spinash. Welcome back, my brother.
Thank you, Luba. Thank you for holding it down for the past two episodes. Schedule has been hectic this side, but missed the missed being on with you, my friend.
Yeah, I know adulting is not easy, but we've got to do what we got to do. Otherwise, how have you been?
No complaints on my side. No complaints. Lot of cricket on TV. So trying to squeeze it in between the adulting. So yeah,
And you know
your side.
when there's a lot of cricket going on TV, it means there's a lot of cricket to talk about. But yeah, we definitely won't make it a long one. If it is long, it's going to be necessary for it to be long. Today we are having a chat about the T20 tournament, the CSA T20 Challenge, which was the Division 1 tournament. And then we will be talking about something that a lot of people are still talking about even now. I had to switch off my notifications because I knew this whole episode was going to be disturbed by notifications. People are saying a lot of things about the T20 squad, but we will not start with that. We are going to, as cliche as it sounds, we are going to leave the best for last. Coach R, T20 tournament. I know you're a Titans fan and you're probably still trying to heal from the wounds. Um, let's wrap it up. How was the whole tournament for you? In terms of entertainment, in terms of accessibility, in terms of quality of cricket. I'd say even if you want to, you can even compare it with the IPL, which is currently taking place in India, and there's loads of runs being scored there.
Too many, maybe. Uh, so for the CSA 20 challenge, I was impressed with a lot of the people, like the new faces that came through. A lot of faces people didn't know. Uh, yes, in the end, we could say sort of the teams we expected to get to the semifinals got to the semifinals, no matter how they did it. Maybe not in the order we thought they'd make it through to those tournaments to that stage, but the top four was what most people would have expected to be the top four, depending on what order that would have been. But I was most impressed with the crowds. We know South African crowds is a big thing, so we didn't get SA 20 crowds, but we got really decent crowds for the CSA challenge this year. There was lots of campaigns being run, which shows the marketing trying to get people to the stadiums to watch the cricket. Runs wise, maybe we could have had more. Maybe not as many as IPL, but we could have had more. I'm very happy with the variety of wicket takers we've got this year. A lot of new faces in that regard. So we, we're looking up. That's what I'm saying. We always want to see the next guys in line. We always obviously want to see the big guys before, but we also always looking at the next guys in line and whether the future is looking bright for South Africa as a whole, not necessarily our favorite teams, but on the whole, it was a successful CSA tournament, I felt.
Yeah. No, coach. And I think the top four that proceeded to the semifinals is the top four that we actually picked when we were having a chat. I remember we had a chat about it, and we predicted a top four. The Lions started slowly, but then you know what they say. It's not about how you start, especially in a long tournament like that. It is about how you finish. The Warriors, I'm sad. Like I always say, I don't really have a team that I can say I fully support. Like I support the Warriors. I'm based in PE. I'm working here and I'm coaching here. I'm from Mpumalanga. I grew up supporting the Lions. I have a soft spot for the Dolphins because I worked under them a bit. So for me, seeing all these three teams doing well was good. But I think you've got to feel for the Warriors. They went at some point. They were, was it 7 or 8 matches undefeated, 7 or 8 matches on the trot, no defeat. They were looking like the team that was unbeatable. What do you think went wrong, Coachy, for them? Was it a matter of what we call the law of averages, or is it something that they can go back and work on as a team? Because they really looked like the side to beat, even when the guys that play IPL left, they were still winning matches and they were still looking like a team that was going to win the tournament. So, what do you think went wrong for the Warriors? What do you think is the one thing that they probably need to maybe look at going into the next season?
Uh, I don't think a lot we'd say went wrong, but with you'd say maybe with the new guys coming through, and once they got derailed a bit, it might have affected a lot of the team psyche, the whole balance within the team, and what they wanted to achieve. So, but they still made the semi-finals, and once you're in there, anything can happen. I always say on the day, and it is T20 cricket. So I don't think they would look back and say it's a disappointment after the start that they had, that they didn't actually even go into the final. But getting to the semi-final, I think, was should always be the goal for most teams. Once you're in that knockout stages, anything can happen, especially in T20 cricket. One guy gets a good knock against you, one guy has a very good spell, you're in trouble. But I don't think they'll go back and have too many corrections. They might take this as a learning experience, especially for the younger guys around the team. Some of them take it as a confidence booster. People like Andy, who played really well later on in the tournament also. So it might actually not be as bad as we'd want to think it was. Their tournament might look like the Titans one because they all both lost semi-finals, but I was really disappointed in the Titans' way to getting to the semi-final. They scraped in at the end with some, I won't say dominant performance because they didn't actually go and have dominant performances, but the Warriors, on the other hand, they were quite dominant when they were winning. So they, I felt, have a bigger base and a better base to build on from. So shouldn't be too disappointed.
Yeah, you touch on the Titans there. We're still gonna talk about the Titans. But I also agree with you regarding the Warriors. I think they were fantastic. And one thing that I have come to realize is tournaments are won by experience most of the time. Tournaments are won by experience, and I think they were lacking in terms of experience in the side. Not many of the guys have made it, have played in finals, and you look at in terms of experience in the side, I think that's probably the one thing that let them down. But yeah, they did really well. Hopefully, maybe next season they'll be able to win at least one tournament. But before we talk about the Titans, I want us to talk about the Tuskers. They got promoted. They were looking like a good side. Okay, they were looking like a side that would be able to compete. And I remember at the start of the season they were punching above their weight, and then Moggs left the coach, and they had a new coach, and suddenly things seemed like they were imploding on them. Um, the Tuskers, what do you think went wrong? Cameron Delport, what is going on? Do we think he's maybe done? Maybe cricket decided, no, you know what, Ken, you've bullied bowlers for so long, and now it's time for me to let's give bowlers a break. What do you think went wrong with the Tuskers? Because personally, I've been trying to put my finger on it, and I've been struggling because I think they had a team, they had a good team. They had guys who can compete. They had Umbulelo Butaza. I remember, I think it was a season ago or 2 seasons back. He did well in white ball cricket. He was one of the better bowlers. He was one of the best bowlers in white ball cricket, actually. They had Cameron Delport. We know what he can do on his day. And he showed it at times, which it wasn't enough because it was probably once in every 7 innings. They had someone like Mike Erlang, and he's someone who scores runs, someone who takes wickets, is a good fielder. I couldn't really put my finger on what was going on. They had Keith Dudgeon, they've got Tian Kukamu. They had a good side. I think for me, they had a side that could perform, that could compete. But for some reason, the side was just struggling to compete. There were points where it was like one guy, two guys just raising their hands, and everyone else was just like, yeah, well, whatever.
Uh, I didn't want to start it like that, but for them, but I feel like it was off the field stuff that might have actually even affected the performance on the field. There was a stage where there was some rally or whatever that happened on their ground, and their ground had was not cleaned up properly or whatever the real terms were used. But from there, then I think it was said that some players didn't weren't comfortable playing there because it was dangerous, had some pins and on the field. So
Yeah.
then they weren't allowed to play for a while. So people like I remember even I was wondering where Tian Kukumur was, thinking he was injured or something.
Mm.
But things like that do affect a team, especially in quick tournaments. These tournaments might be longer, getting longer now, but you lose two, three, 4 games, and now you're playing catch up. You're always going to be uh, not going to get there to the semifinals or even competing with teams who have already made their mistakes while being at full strength or trying their working all together as one. Once you have cracks within the team, within management, within because even their home games ended up not being played at home. Some of them, I remember they played 2 games here in Pretoria or Centurion against the Titans. So things like that will affect you, even if you'd say you have experienced people like Erlang, like Cameron, but it's hard just to bat that aside and carry on with life. So I don't think we could just look at the performance on the field on its own. But having said all this, we can't just bet that performance to the side. There was a time
Yeah.
where Dudgeon was the leading batsman. So if that's the case, you know your team's in trouble. Not to say Keith can't, shouldn't be batting, but he's usually a lower bowling all rounder, so lower middle order. So you can't have him top scoring, best strike rate, being your main man with the bat. You can't have him doing that for the whole season and thinking you're going to compete with teams who have two, three batsmen batting at the top, scoring runs. You have bowlers taking wickets. So Keith was doing pretty much everything for them. So
Yeah.
you can't have that for the whole season.
Yeah, no, it's true, Mona Kochar. Sometimes it's the smallest things that put you off. It's the smallest things, this even the minor things like not being able to play your home games at home. We know home advantage is something that exists in sport, and it's something that is important. So for them to have to play their home games away, I'm sure it's also something that put them off. Also, sometimes changing a coach mid-season doesn't help because now you've got a new guy, new coaching philosophy. Sorry, new playing style, new requirements, new expectations. So maybe sometimes players need a bit of time to try and acclimatize to the new setup, the new coaching style, the new. Because I think he wasn't. I think the coach Ahmed Amla wasn't assistant of Umogs. I think they fetched him. He came from outside, or he was within the Tusker system. So I think maybe if they had taken someone who was an assistant to Umogs, maybe just to try and finish the season, maybe we might have seen a bit of a difference because it would have been someone who was already there and he knows what's been going on and how they've been doing it. It would mean that they wouldn't really have to change much. But then again, I think it's an opportunity for them to go back to Division Two and to try and work on what needs to be worked on. Unfortunately, they're losing players. It's going to be tough, but yeah, we will see. Now, let's go to a side that I know you love so much, a side that stressed you for most parts of the tournament. I remember you and I used to have chats every now and then, and you were very frustrated, and I was also frustrated on your behalf because I still feel that side is so good that on a given day they would smash everyone, but they were not smashing anyone. They were just winning. Hmm? They were not smashing anyone. They were just winning, which is okay. We all care about the winning, but personally, I feel like they're too good. They were supposed to have done much better in the tournament, but then they were able to scrape through and they made it to the semifinals. Let's talk about the Titans, Coach Char. Your thoughts on the Titans?
As you just said, that team, even with all the Proteas and IPL players leaving, that team is usually too strong for most teams in the country. So it's disappointing when they don't dominate games. Even if you're saying they did win, but you want more dominant performances from that side. And
Yeah,
I felt like some of the selections earlier on were quite iffy, if I could say that. You had too many all rounders coming in. We started at five, I think. So you had five, six, seven. You had. It felt like they didn't know what they're doing. The left-hander, what's his name now, or the Proteus skipper. Uh, he came in at five. Most people weren't sure
yeah,
about whether he's.
Neil Brand, yes, no brand.
Yeah, Neil Brandt. Yeah, thank you. Sorry, Neil. Uh, so he came in at five. Not a lot of people backed him. Me being one of those who I didn't feel he was a T20 batter.
Especially not number
My
five, right?
exactly, especially not at number five. But he sort of performed decently there. So it made us some of us eat our words, but still the team and the balance of the team didn't sit right with most of us. And the we should have rode the wave of the SA Under-19 World Cup and having both those kids at the top, having Steve Stoke and Pretorius opening as early as possible,
Yeah,
having them learn. Yes, they weren't going to play with Clausen and Aiden much because the balance and the numbers needed to be balanced on who plays where. But giving those boys a chance, especially Steve Stoke, who I feel is hit and miss because of how he is. He will be more hit and miss, and maybe he'll learn quicker than some players who are hitters because he seems to have a better base and knows what he's trying to do. But sometimes the construction of an innings, which we saw when he did finally come in, you feel like he was trying to prove a point all the time. He hit a great shot instead of try again instead of now playing the next ball on merit. Yes, if it's still a bad ball, hit it. But he seemed to be always trying to prove a point, which I feel like if he was back from the start, once the Proteas were gone, get those two in at the top, play around with your middle order. Sid had a very good tournament. I think he scored 350s in a
yeah,
row or something like that. So you had Sips scoring runs, you had Rivaldo scoring runs, but we still weren't dominating games, which shouldn't be the case. So if we had let those boys lay their platform the way they do, there's one game they did play, we got to 40 of like 4 or 5 overs, which is what those boys can do. And then you have River coming in, you've got Sips coming in, you've got who turned up to be Neil Brandt coming in at five. And that's top order there scoring runs for you. Even before you
yeah.
get to Dan Khalif, who did have a few cameos, scored a few runs, but the platform at the top was always shaky. They changed around on a lot of players. They didn't know what balance they wanted to go in. They had Corbin batting at six, sometimes at seven.
Sims was opening at some point.
yeah, they didn't have one boy. I think they didn't use at all. Who is very good hitter of the ball, bowls decent pace. Is Matthew Post didn't get a
Yeah,
game. So it's here or there. We don't know what the coaches are seeing in the background and what people are doing. But it felt a little frustrating sitting on the side, watching from the side, and seeing that squad sort of not click and perform as well as
yeah.
we would have thought they would.
It almost looked like there was no. At some point, it almost looked like there was a bit of a confusion in terms of a planning, in terms of how they wanted to play the game, how they wanted to make up their team. I remember at some point Sips opened the batting. I questioned that. He has never opened the batting. Um, I was surprised to see him open the batting. It didn't work. That's when he struggled, and people were even calling for his head, even though he was opening, doing something that he hadn't done. And then when he was sent back to a position that was more natural to him, he started scoring runs. Even Rivaldo, I think, did better in the middle order at some point. Then he was promoted to open. Then they tried out Josh van Heerden. I think he had one good game. Then he was dropped. Then came Jack Nees and the same thing. At some point, it looked like there was no plan. But yeah, I'm also happy to I'm happy with the fact that we got to see the two kids, Luandre Pretorius, who's a really good left-handed batsman. Steve Stock, on the other hand, agree with you, Coachy. I think he needs to find a way. He needs to find himself. But also, I don't want them to overcoach him. I don't want them to take away that zeal he has of wanting to just moor the ball. He just needs to find a way. He needs to find a balance between mooring the ball and maybe just taking one. There's a saying that great batters are able to score one off a good ball, and then average batsmen are the ones who struggle to score even from a good ball. So I think it's one thing that Steve Stock needs to work on, just building an innings. Even at the under 19 World Cup, there were times where I felt he could have easily scored 100, 150, but that's how he plays. And I think, yeah, the Titans, they bounced back. It was good to see them bounce back. It was worrying to see them struggling the way that they were struggling. Another side that sort of impressed me was in Northwest, Robin Herman at the top with
Ruben.
Mikael Prince. That opening pair did so well for them. I think they were just unlucky not to make it to the semifinals. I don't know what happened, but with tournaments where there's mathematics involved, you can never be too sure. The only way to be too sure is to make sure that you're always in the top two. Almost every match week, you're in the top two. But I think, yeah, to agree with you with what you said in the beginning, that overall the tournament was good. Personally, I don't enjoy tournaments where you get 200 scores, 260 scores. That's why I stopped watching the IPL. I watched two games and I was like, nah, bro, this is not for me. Guys scoring 260 plus, then still maybe winning by 2, 3, 4 runs. That's crazy. Yeah, and I think now we can touch on the big debate, the big discussion, the T20 World Cup. Lungi, I know me and you, Lungi, me and you, when it comes to Lungi Sani, we are willing to throw hands. Lungi Sani Ngidi misses out. He's in the squad as a traveling reserve, but that means he will only play if there's an injury. If there's no injury, he's not going to play, regardless of whether we are losing or we are winning. Before we talk about the whole squad, I want us to talk about Ulungingiti, because I know even our Twitter followers that know the two of us, they know when it comes to Ulungisan. Let's talk about Ulungi. What are your thoughts? Do you think him missing out is a good thing? What do you think, Jay, about it?
I could never say that him missing out is a good thing, but I could say it didn't anger me as it would normally do, especially
Yeah.
with him being in the traveling reserves. It shows that he was close enough, which shows that he was still being what I sometimes feel is he gets disrespected because the
Yeah.
white ball bowler that Lungi is shouldn't be questioned most of the time. Like even if he has bad games, his white ball stats and his white ball game is at a level where he should be respected. At some point, I felt he was the best white bowler, seam bowler in the country. But there was a point where he got injured. He went through a slightly bad patch, I'd say, which was, I feel, exaggerated sometimes by some people because, yes, he might have gone at 11s in that game, in a game here or gone. But if you're going at 11 and everyone else is going at 10, it's just one more. So it seemed
Yeah.
exaggerated, and he was just being picked as the scapegoat, if you want to say that. But I'll never be happy with him not being in the squad. And I did tweet after the squad went out that quite happy with the squad. I might have rotated him with one of the other bowlers in the squad. They have them as reserves, but to be honest, not too disappointed with the 15 that has been picked. Actually, quite happy, quite shocked at one and two, but quite happy with the whole squad as a whole. So I think the squad sort of died down my disappointment of Lungi being on the side. I feel if it was
Yeah.
a bad squad and Lungi was not in it, I would have felt worse about Lungi missing out.
Yeah. No, no, I hear you. And I think for me, what makes me sad is the fact that he started the SA20 so well. And I'm sure he would have gone to the IPL. I don't know how he would have done in the IPL because of how the pitches have been this year, and we've seen
Too
how
good.
so many people are struggling. But I think his way of bowling would have worked there. Because if you look at guys that just bowl quickly, they're going for runs, even though some are getting wickets. Um, for me, what makes it really sad is the fact that he started the SA20 so well. He was doing well. He was taking wickets, and then I remember he had like two poor games, and then suddenly Lungi's out of the tournament. He's injured, and I'm like, oh my god. Then he comes back from injury. He starts slow. He seemed like he was struggling a bit. And then for me, that sort of put the nail in the coffin. And I was like, I don't think he's going to make the squad. I didn't think he would make the squad. And I understand. Even though he started the SA20 well, he was injured for most parts. He was injured until the end of the SA20. He came back I think it was in the last few matches of the T20 challenge as well, and he looked like he was struggling a bit. So for me, I think I'm with you. I'm hurt that he won't be. He's not in the official squad, but I understand. It sort of makes sense. However, I also want us to talk about that bowling combination in that squad. Personally, I'm worried, and I'm going to tell you why I'm worried about it, Coach. You have got Gerald Kotia, fantastic bowler. He's a fighter. I like him. Really good bowler. But he has the same issue that many people used to complain about Lungi having. He's gonna take wickets, but he's gonna give you runs for those wickets. Ne? You have Marco Janssen. Marco, another fantastic bowler. All those guys are fantastic bowlers. You have Marco Janssen going back to the World Cup, the recently concluded World Cup, the 50 over World Cup. We saw what happens when he's put under pressure. And in a World Cup, you're always going to be put under pressure. His failure to recover from what happened against India is something that worries me. Will we not see the same thing? The fact that there's no other all-rounder in the team is a bit of a worry as well. So now already, these two guys might give you runs. You've got, I like calling him Oatmeal. I hope he won't mind. But you've got Oatmeal Batman. He's a good bowler, a good death bowler as well. But then my issue with him is the lack of experience in international cricket. But then don't get me wrong, no one is born with experience. No one is born with it. You gain experience experience through playing. And hopefully, the matches that he's going to play in the West Indies will try and sort of fast track him in terms of understanding the requirements of international cricket. Because bowling here in South Africa against our batters could be easy, but then when it comes to international cricket, it's a whole different story. So now, my thing with this whole bowling attack is we don't have the type of variation that you need in T20 cricket. Enrich Nortje, yes, he's got a slower ball, but what else does he have? Gerald Coetzee is also got a few tricks, but probably just two things. You've got Marco Jansen. The pitches might suit him, especially in the USA. The drop-in pitches, they're going to have a bit of pace, they're going to have bounce. But then what else does he have apart from that? Looking at all the bowlers, that even Kagiso Rabada, I think batters just respect him because he's dangerous. But even he doesn't have a lot of skills up his sleeves in terms of white ball cricket. He used to bowl some really good Yorkers, and I don't know what happened to them. So for me, when it comes to the bowling attack, I think we're lacking a bit of spice that is needed for white ball cricket. I think even if we can go back to rankings of bowlers, you'll see white ball cricket is normally dominated by spinners and guys who are good at playing around at their pace, which is why I was so mad that Andile did not have a good CSA T20 tournament, because I was banking on him to be that guy who brings that different variation. That guy you can say, keeper, come, stand up, Andile, bowl straight, Andile, try your funny stuff, because I felt Tulungi wouldn't make the squad, because he's also another guy who can come and try and do those slower balls and all of that without fear, and those cutters. So I don't know what you think about this, but personally I'm worried about the bowling attack. I think it lacks a bit of variation. Nandre Berger, I think, should have been there. I don't know for who, but I feel like he should have been there.
You don't know for who. I was brave enough to call two names after then put two names in. So I would have had G and Anas as my traveling reserves. Anas only because since he's come back from the World Cup, he's struggled just a bit, but everybody struggled at that IPL. But even when he was here in South Africa, he didn't look like the Anas we know. So I would have had Nandre. There's, as I'm saying, this 17 I feel is probably the best 17 we have. It's just that I would have thrown in Lungi and Nandre into the actual 15 and had G, who would have been a close 16, and then had Anas on as the second one, rather than having Lungi and Nandre on the bench. Because I feel we might have Jansen as our left armour, but Jansen is bowling, as you said, sometimes in white ball cricket, because I think in test matches he's sort of, I don't want to say gets away with it, but he's found his feet a little better there. He can bowl his channels, his line, and his bounce is better with the red ball, I'd say. But Nandre, I feel he's got a yorker, he's got a quick bouncer, swings it sometimes both ways, but he can move the ball around. So, yeah, he's quick. So, having Nandre in that team, I felt would have been advantageous to us. But sometimes we're fighting for players who wouldn't start, because what's going to happen, what looks like is going to happen for most of the tournament, is two spinners, KG and Jansen. So from the get-go, there's one seam bowler left position. So is that going to be Gerald Coetzee? Is that going to be Onet Bartman? Is that going to be Anas Andres Nokia? So from the get-go, it looks like that's the vibe we're going to have for most of the tournament. Yes, because of, you said, dropping pitches, we do not know. Okay, let's not say we. I don't know what to expect from those pitches sometimes, because Australia can put in some very good dropping pitches where you get pace, you get bounce, you get life out of the pitch. But with USA being new to this, I'm not 100% sure we all will get as many true and good. which means you would have wanted more of Lungi. You would have wanted an Andy that people would play around with it on slow, dead pitches, which won't bounce as much, which would do. So I am worried a little bit.
especially in the
Yes,
Caribbean. The West Indies with the spin is going to come into play, and those slower balls are also going to come into play.
yes. So as I'm saying, I'm quite worried, which is not normally how we go into tournaments. We're usually very, very happy with our bowling and worried about our batting. But this IPL has been good for us, everyone. KG hasn't had it his way, but KG is KG, and I think his reputation helps him a lot. As you said, he will be KG. Even if he's not great, he will never be usually not bad. So KG will be there and KG will do his thing. But we really need Janssen to have a good tournament, I feel, with the ball, which will allow the spinner or the spinners to get into the game and dominate. Because I feel our biggest wicket threats are our two spinners, whether we play Keshav and Shamsi, or because I think Bjorn is number three in that list. I'm happy to have him in the squad, but I do think he's number three. So Keshav, who can bowl a bit in the power play, but not opening first over, but can bowl a bit in the power play, and then you have Shamsi in the middle overs, who on his day, he's our 3 for 13, 4 for 12 guy who can tear a team apart and win it with a ball. Because I believe we're going into this tournament to try to win it with a bat and hold teams back with the ball. So try to score 180 and defend. From the squad, that's what I'm seeing, and I'm thinking that's not too bad a shout on how we should try, but I'm a little worried with our bowling.
I'm also worried about their confidence because they're being butchered there in India on those wickets. They're getting hammered, even though they're getting some of them are getting wickets, but they're still getting hammered. I saw Lizard Williams went for about 30 something in just 2 overs, but then
Yeah,
he
but
bounced.
21, I think, in an over.
Yeah, no, but ooh, that's not the kind of cricket that I enjoy watching. I don't enjoy watching bowlers fetching. So, like I said the last time, maybe they need to just buy bowling machines and just let the bowlers chillax and watch, and then just use bowling machines. But yeah, I think the biggest thing for us is our bowling. The biggest concern is our bowling. Um, okay, never mind the fact that they could be low in confidence because of what's happening in India, but the fact that there's the lack of variation that we were talking about, especially when going to countries like West Indies. I think someone like Aiden Markram is going to have to bowl himself. Might need a few overs from or Tristan Stubbs as well. I think the slower you are in white ball cricket, the most likely you are to get wickets because batters need to use a lot of force and stuff. But yeah, and I'm hoping Nokia is gonna find form soon. I was having a bit of a discussion with someone on Twitter. Poof, I responded to a tweet that was saying he was talking about a rhythm and the fact that Anna still has the pace. And my argument was that if the pace is still there, if he's bowling quick, then it means a rhythm is there. It means there's something else that is wrong. He's either not bowling well, or he's low in confidence, or it's something else. Because personally, as from experience as a coach, I believe that if a bowler's bowling quick, it means they're in good rhythm. If they're bowling slower than usually, it's either they're Duan Olivier or they're struggling with their rhythm.
For me, that's another thing we're banking and crossing our fingers on for Anas because tournament Anas is quite special. We've been lucky to have Anas, I think, past two T20 World Cups going at less than a run a ball. So having an informed Anas would be very, very good because, as they always say, quick is quick. No matter how the pitch is, quick is quick.
Yeah.
So we do hope that Anas comes in, but I'm not sure I want, because I do want Oatmeal Badman, because I do think we struggle at the death. So we might actually have to go with the one spinner, and then play Oatmeal and one of the quick ones being G or Nakir, so we can have death bowling from Oatmeal, because I think sometimes that's where the Proteas struggle with death bowling. Teams will get them needing 40 of the last three and they still get it, because death bowling is not our greatest all the time. So we do need Anas who can throw in that Yorker at the death. We do need IPLs to utilize Oatmeal Batman, who also has a very good Yorker and can bowl at the death. So it's going to be a balancing act for the coaches for that bowling lineup, because I think the batting picks itself. We haven't even spoken about the batting, because I feel the batting picks itself.
On the batting, you said it itself, and I think not a lot of people are going to agree with you based on the teams that I've been seeing. I've been seeing people picking Riza at 3, Ryan at 2, opening with Queenie. So I'm gonna just ask you a question so that we don't drag this. How's your top 6 looking? I don't care about 7 to 11 because I know 7's gonna be Mako. But how's your top 6 looking? Who's opening and so and so?
The only O I have, and I do not want it. I think reputation makes it an O. Is we've got Queenie or Ryan Rickleton opening the batting. So if it was purely on what I want, I would have Rickleton opening with Risa, Aiden at 3, Stubbs at 4, Carson at 5, Miller at 6. That would be the top 6 I'd go in with. And in that order, unless game situation, you'd say. That's my top 6 in that order. I don't want Stubbs at 6. I just don't want him at 6 for now. I'd rather have him coming
Yeah.
in earlier. As I'm saying, in normal circumstances, have him at 4, then Clausen at 5. But game situation obviously will dictate who comes in when. But that's the top 6 I think should be picked. And I don't think we should have too many discussions on most of those players. So just that opening spot on who's our keeper.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that one, Coachy, and we've got a bunch of animals in the top 6, eh? with how those guys have been striking the ball in the last couple of, maybe in the last 18 months or so. You've got Tristan Stubbs, you've got Heinrich Klassen. See if our bowling clicks. In fact, I'm gonna say to you now, we are going to win this World Cup. And I'm not saying it, as a fan. I'm saying it as a prediction. In my heart, I'd say I don't know, and I'm to say, but I just feel like this time the Proteas are going to take it. And the last time I made a prediction like this, it turned out to be spot on. World Cup that England won. I said at the beginning of the year, the World Cup is going to be won. Time I said it was going to be won by a first time. And then I said I hope it would be the Proteas. Then they had a horrible tournament, but I also didn't want the New Zealand to win. Coach, before we wrap it up quickly, there's a very sensitive topic going around when it comes to Cup squad. The issue of one black player being in the squad. It's cannot run away from as South Africans, South African cricket fans. Transformation is something we cannot run away from. But also at the same time, I feel people need to understand that the coach the fact that there's only one black player. There's this other before I there's only one player in the squad, and that is a concern. And I feel like it is showing that there's a gap somewhere within the system. Someone somewhere in the system failed somehow. There's a vacuum in the system. And now this is proof, the fact that there's only one black player in the squad. And Rob came out, he said the same thing. He echoed my sentiments that there's a vacuum. But now I need people to understand that, yes, it is true. We all agree that the fact that there's one player in the squad is concerning. But we also need to be honest with ourselves. How many black players out there in the country would have been in contention for selection? Lungi was unfortunate to miss out. I think it was because of injury and him missing out. But I think it's only him and Kagiso Rabada. Andy Lepetlukayo didn't have a great tournament in the CSA T20 Challenge. Temba Bavuma didn't have a great tournament in the CSA T20 Challenge. The only black players I'd say had great tournaments, you've got Osia Simet, but remember, he's just recently came back to professional cricket. You already have Bjorn Fortuin ahead of him. You already have Kesh ahead of him, and you've got Ushamzi ahead of him. And then there's Ungaba Peter. There's Ungaba Peter as well. He bowled well, but there's also three other guys ahead of him. So those are the only two guys we can say were pushing for a spot in the side. So, like I said, we also need to hold players accountable. Why are they not pushing for spots in the national team? Because we can't say we want to see black players in the team, but they are not pushing for spots in the team. I know many people are not going to like me for this, but it's fine. Mine, I don't know what you think, but mine is, let's focus on winning the World Cup. Let's try and win the World Cup. Then we can try and sort out wherever the vacuum is. Because if we decide now to take a black player and force him into the squad, it's going to mess things up. First of all, it might be not even in form. So report the coach and see how it goes. I don't know what you think, coach.
On my end, coach, I think you're quite right on a lot that you said, and I think we need to look at the positives.
It was a great chat. Unfortunately, Aphiwe had to leave us due to issues with the network signal. But I hope that whoever's watching is going to be watching the episode. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you learned something, and I hope that you will subscribe and watch more of our episodes. If there's any input you have for us, anything you'd like to say, any question you would like to ask us, it's okay, just drop it in the comment section and we will definitely see it. Thank you very, very much for watching another episode of On the Boundary, and we will see you we'll see you in our next episode, which is going to be as exciting and interesting as this one. Thank you guys. Cheers.